Analyst Sam Acho and Tim Hasselback. Dan, I'm going to start with you. What can you tell us about the likelihood that T. Higgins gets tagged?
Christine, is starting to sound more and more likely, even if they only do it as a means of extending their window to possibly negotiate a long-term deal with him, or to even maybe get something for him in trade if they can't do that. The tag will be about $26 million for T. Higgins, which is a high number considering they're also trying to extend Ja'Marr Chase. There are only two teams in the league right now paying multiple wide receivers more than $25 million a year. They are the Dolphins and the Eagles. The good news is one of those teams just won the Super Bowl. The bad news is it's just not that easy to build a roster when you devote that much money to one position.
Okay, so Dan, you just mentioned this. Our Jeremy Fowler last night reported that Cincinnati is going to try to get long-term deals done with Higgins, Ja'Marr Chase, and defensive end Trey Hendrickson. So Tim, starting with you, is this a good strategy?
Listen, keeping your good players is definitely a good strategy. There's no question about it. But from the standpoint of being able to afford them, it's a good strategy if you would have not waited this long on T. Higgins. I think that ends up being the challenge here, because you could have extended T. Higgins a while ago, but now doing it when he's already looking at $26 million on a one-year deal via the tag, like now his number has skyrocketed. And then Ja'Marr Chase, just basically led the NFL in every receiving category, so his number is higher. And Trey Hendrickson has been your best pass rusher, and he's further along in his deal, so his number's higher. So, yeah, the philosophy is good, but I just don't think that you can wait this far into these guys' contracts to do it. When you know that they can play, be early to redoing their deals if you want to keep them all with your organization.
Yeah, but one thing I think it's good to remember is that the quarterback, Joe Burrow, has said he's willing to adjust his contract in order to make room for his star players, i.e. T. Higgins and Ja'Marr Chase. The franchise tag is a great option, but a better option is to spread that money over a longer period of time. So you talk about the offense, but it's not just the offense. It's important to keep all the star players, including Trey Hendrickson. He led the NFL in sacks last year by 3.5 over Myles Garrett. You talk about T. Higgins, outstanding. When he was the number one, he showed he was number one. And Ja'Marr Chase, Triple Crown winner. And so if Joe Burrow is willing to adjust his contract, you have to keep the star players. Why? Because you have an ability to compete and win right now with the roster that you have.
That's a very good note there, Sam, because Jeremy also mentioned in his reporting that will be a very ambitious and expensive feat if they want to get those deals done. Okay, so let's go from the AFC North to the NFC North. Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold, he's set to become a free agent. The franchise tag for quarterbacks is expected to be over $41 million, according to Over the Cap. So, Dan, what can you tell us about Minnesota's plan for Darnold?
There's a sense in the Vikings building of not necessarily wanting to let a 27-year-old quarterback who just had the year Sam Darnold had walk out the building and get nothing in return. The question is, can they afford it? Can they franchise him? Can they sign him to a long-term deal? And what does that mean for the future of J.J. McCarthy, who a year ago was the 10th pick in the draft, and ideally from the Vikings standpoint will be their long-term starter at the position? You look at J.J. McCarthy's cap numbers over the next 3 years, it's $5 million, $6 million, $7 million. You start talking about re-signing Sam Darnold or franchising him at numbers like that, you really have to adjust your plan for the rest of your roster build if you do that. Now, the Vikings are going over their options. It is entirely possible they make an effort to bring Sam Darnold back. It's entirely possible they franchise him, similarly to what I said about T. Higgins, in an effort to work out a long-term deal or maybe get something in return in trade. But these are complicated issues that the Vikings are working through here over the next couple of weeks, and right now it's hard to predict how it turns out.
Okay, Sam, so Dan just mentioned this. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy, he's waiting in the wings. He got injured at the beginning of the season. He was supposed to be their quarterback. So what do you think that Minnesota should do?
Yeah, I think that Minnesota should actually move on from Sam Darnold and keep J.J. McCarthy. They drafted J.J. McCarthy last year to be their quarterback of the future. And Sam Darnold, who was outstanding, he played great. But all of a sudden, $41 million starts looking not the best option when you have a quarterback who's going to be on a rookie contract. So it's awesome that Sam Darnold was able to have the year that he had, the success that the Vikings had. But it's not wise to try and keep him to either a long-term deal or a franchise tag when you have a quarterback who you drafted in the first round, who you were confident in before an injury that supplanted his rookie year. So for me, I think you move on from Sam Darnold and you go with a rookie quarterback on his rookie contract in J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, I think I see it differently. Look, you know that Sam Darnold can play, and I think that's the difference. And so everything Sam said is right about the benefits of a rookie contract. But when you look at what Sam Darnold did this season, you can win with that. Like, that works. No matter what anybody says, no matter what they think of J.J. McCarthy, you don't know until a guy does it. Everyone thought Trevor Lawrence could play. He hasn't done it yet. And so I think the fact that you have a 27-year-old quarterback, this isn't a 32-year-old quarterback, a 27-year-old quarterback in your building who also, by the way, kind of probably has the perspective of, I've been other places and, I didn't necessarily play that same way at those other stops. In this offense, with this coaching staff, with these players, I can have success. Look, you're going to pay them starter money, no question about it. You're not resetting the quarterback market because of it. So really, you're not allocating any more money to the quarterback position than any other team. So I actually think you build around Sam Darnold. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of J.J. McCarthy. I definitely would answer the phone on him, but it wouldn't mean I would move on from him, and I would build around Sam Darnold, who proved he can play, for the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay, so that was going to be my follow-up question to you, Tim. You think they should keep J.J. McCarthy in the building, but sign Sam Darnold to a longer-term contract?
Well, you heard Dan talk about, his cap hit over the next few years. That's backup money. Like I think Drew Lock made $5 million last year. Like, the reality is that, he's due to make backup money. So just go ahead and keep him. But look, if you get an offer that's really good, then yeah, take the picks.
Hopefully J.J. McCarthy isn't watching SportsCenter right now, because I'm sure he's very unhappy with that take. But thanks so much, Tim, Dan, and Sam. We'll see you later. Off the field at the end of the season with more questions than answers. Despite questions about quarterback decisions, things started off pretty solid. They went 10-3 in their first 13 games, but then they lost their next 5. After the season, there were questions about whether or not Mike Tomlin should stay in Pittsburgh. He's not the 36-year-old Super Bowl winning head coach anymore. So how can they get that magic back? Brooke Pryor has more.
For a second straight year, the Pittsburgh Steelers exited the playoffs with a wild card loss and entered the offseason without a clear starting quarterback. With Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and Kyle Allen only under contract through the 2024 season, the Steelers' quarterback cycle is poised to reset again after yet another fruitless revolution.
Stuck is kind of a helpless feeling, and I don't know that I feel helpless.
Steelers owner Art Rooney II said his preference is to sign either Wilson or Fields to a multi-year deal. Both quarterbacks have expressed a desire to return to Pittsburgh, but only one is likely to be in black and gold in 2025.
I think both of them see themselves as starters, and I don't know if they want to share the same job again next year.
But quarterback isn't the only position that faces uncertainty. Running back Najee Harris is set to be a free agent after the team declined his fifth-year option a year ago, and the wide receiver room continues to lack depth behind the talented yet volatile George Pickens. Once seemingly on the cusp of breaking a cycle of mediocrity, the Steelers now appear stuck in neutral and no closer to ending a nearly decade-long playoff win drought.
All right, we're back with NFL insider Dan Graziano. So Dan, what are you hearing about how the Steelers will approach this quarterback this offseason?
Christine, similar to last year when they kind of turned over every stone looking for a solution, they're going to do the same thing and have been. Now, 2 of those stones are in their building in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and you heard in Brooks' report there that the team owner said it would be nice to be able to bring back one of them. Question is, which one would that be? I know Justin Fields made a strong impression on the coaching staff last year in training camp and early in the season when he had to start while Russell Wilson was hurt. And there are some people in that building that would like to continue working with Justin Fields and develop him into potentially the Steelers' long-term solution at the position. But obviously there are also people that prefer to start Russell Wilson, and that could carry the day as well. And then there are external options. This is the time of year where this stuff gets figured out. The Combine is next week. A year ago we went to the Combine thinking the Bears might get something of value for Justin Fields. It turns out he didn't have the market that he thought he had. He ended up in Pittsburgh. So in a week or two, the Steelers' picture at quarterback should be a little bit clearer in terms of what they can and can't do at that position this offseason.
And you mentioned how the start of the season, Justin Fields was doing so well. There were a lot of questions about whether or not Russell Wilson should start, so that just added to the drama at the start of the season. We'll see if they're able to figure out things during this offseason.
Some big-name quarterbacks on the move. It's time to go through some free agent fits with our NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck. And Tim, give me your best fit for Russell Wilson.
For Russell Wilson, I think staying in Pittsburgh is the best fit for him. I think he was a fit leadership-wise. He was named the captain. He was missing time in training camp. And then I think his play rebounded there. So it was obviously a fit with some of the stuff that Arthur Smith wanted to do offensively. Well, I think if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have a good defense, you want a quarterback that won't turn the football over. I think Russell Wilson's a good fit for that, and it's a good fit for Russ in terms of a team that has a chance to be good.
Staying in that same quarterback room, give me the best fit for Justin Fields.
I think for Justin Fields, the interesting thing is he needs to just go find a place where he can be a backup. That's where he is now. And, I think going to a place where you maybe get a chance to play. So I don't know, is it Seattle? Is it Miami? Is it Indy? Much like Mac Jones, ended up in Jacksonville, he ended up playing. Like Justin Fields needs that to happen at this point in his career, so it's somewhere as a backup.
Yeah, we got to talk about him. Best fit for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, we're contractually obligated. Look, here's what I would say with Aaron Rodgers. Look, I think you just got to wait until the dust settles. Like, he's not going to be a priority free agent. I think there's going to be some musical chairs at the position. Obviously, the draft will come and go. And so, I think for Aaron Rodgers ending up with the Tennessee Titans, if they don't draft a quarterback in the first round, and if they find themselves looking around saying, all right, what's our best opportunity to compete in our division, it may end up being Aaron Rodgers once the dust settles at the quarterback situation in terms of some of the musical chairs that will happen.
Yeah, it does almost feel like we're contractually obligated to talk about Aaron Rodgers at this point. Well, we know the Jets are moving on from Rodgers. Which quarterback do you think they should pursue during the offseason?
Well, I think there are a few names, because we talk about these free agent quarterbacks. I think there are a few names of guys that I would want to know if they're available. And I would start, if I'm the Jets, with Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker was drafted to potentially play for the Detroit Lions. Well, Matthew Stafford isn't giving that job up. In fact, he's not yet 30, and he's